A small wooden panel measuring just 30 by 21 inches hangs behind bulletproof glass in the Louvre Museum in Paris. Every year, over 10 million people crowd around it, jostling for a glimpse that lasts mere seconds. Security guards watch it constantly. It has survived theft, vandalism, and world wars. It is insured for over $800 million. This is the Mona Lisa, the most famous painting in human history. But here's the question almost no one asks. Why? What makes this particular portrait so captivating that it has transcended art to become a global cultural phenomenon? Today, we are uncovering the secrets, mysteries, and remarkable story behind Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece. The Mona Lisa was painted by Leonardo da Vinci sometime between 1503 and 1519. It depicts a woman sitting in front of a distant, dreamlike landscape, her hands folded, her expression serene and enigmatic. The painting is executed in oil on a poplar wood panel, using techniques that were revolutionary for the time. But before we explore what makes it special, we need to address a fundamental question. Who is she? For centuries, art historians believed the subject was Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a wealthy Florentine silk merchant named Francesco del Giocondo. The painting was likely commissioned to celebrate either the birth of their second son or the purchase of a new home. In Italian, the painting is known as La Gioconda, which means both the joyful one and the wife of Giocondo. However, Leonardo never delivered the finished painting to the merchant. Instead, he kept it with him for the rest of his life, continuing to work on it, refine it, and carry it with him wherever he traveled. When he died in France in 1519, the painting entered the French royal collection, and it has remained in France ever since. This unusual history, Leonardo's refusal to part with the work, is our first clue that this was no ordinary commission. This painting meant something deeply personal to the artist. Leonardo's revolutionary methods. What makes the Mona Lisa technically extraordinary is Leonardo's mastery of several innovative painting techniques. Sfumato. The most important technique Leonardo employed is called sfumato, which comes from the Italian word for smoke or haze. Instead of using sharp lines and defined edges, Leonardo built up dozens of ultra-thin layers of translucent paint, creating soft transitions between colors and tones. Look at the corners of her mouth and the edges of her eyes. There are no hard lines, just subtle gradations of shadow and light that give her face an almost three-dimensional quality. This is why her expression seems to change depending on where you stand and how the light hits the painting. The sfumato technique creates an ambiguity that makes her appear almost alive. Leonardo applied up to 30 layers of paint, some as thin as 2 micrometers, thinner than a human hair. This painstaking process took years and required extraordinary patience and skill. The eyes. The Mona Lisa's eyes are perhaps her most captivating feature. Leonardo understood something about human perception that few artists of his time grasped. We perceive faces differently, depending on where we focus our attention. When you look directly at her mouth, her expression seems neutral, or perhaps slightly sad. But when you look at her eyes, the smile seems to appear, warm, knowing, even playful. This is because Leonardo painted the face with different levels of detail and shadow in different areas, exploiting the way our peripheral vision processes information differently than our direct gaze. Her eyes also seem to follow you as you move, a trick achieved through careful manipulation of perspective and the direction of the gaze. No matter where you stand, she appears to be looking directly at you. The landscape. Behind the Mona Lisa stretches a mysterious, dreamlike landscape of winding paths, distant mountains, and a bridge that leads nowhere. The landscape on the left side is noticeably lower than the landscape on the right, an intentional asymmetry that creates a sense of movement and otherworldliness. This background is not a real place. It is an imagined landscape from Leonardo's mind, representing perhaps an idealized or spiritual realm. Some scholars believe the barren, rocky terrain symbolizes the passage of time or the relationship between humanity and nature. Themes Leonardo explored throughout his life: the atmospheric perspective, the way distant objects fade into bluish haze, demonstrates Leonardo's deep understanding of optics and how the human eye perceives depth and distance. The smile, why it captivates us. The Mona Lisa's smile has been analyzed, debated, and written about more than any other aspect of the painting. But what makes it so compelling? Scientists using emotion recognition software have analyzed her expression and found it to be 83% happy, 9% disgusted, 6% fearful, and 2% angry. This complex mixture of emotions creates an expression that is both familiar and unknowable. We recognize it as a smile, but we cannot quite read what lies behind it. Psychologically, humans are drawn to ambiguity. We are pattern-seeking creatures, and when we encounter something that resists easy interpretation, our brains become engaged. The Mona Lisa's smile is ambiguous enough to keep us looking, trying to decode what she is thinking or feeling. Some researchers suggest the smile represents inner contentment or self-knowledge, a woman at peace with herself. Others see melancholy or loss beneath the surface. The genius of Leonardo is that the smile can support multiple interpretations simultaneously. There is also evidence that Leonardo used his own face as a reference point when painting the Mona Lisa. Computer analysis has shown remarkable similarities in the proportions between Leonardo's self-portraits and the Mona Lisa's face. If true, this adds another layer of meaning. Perhaps the painting is not just a portrait of Lisa Gherardini, but also a meditation on identity, self-perception, and the act of artistic creation itself. The theft that made her famous here is a surprising fact. The Mona Lisa was not always the most famous painting in the world. Before 1911, it was admired by art experts, but was not a household name. What changed? On August 21, 1911, an Italian handyman named Vincenzo Peruggia walked into the Louvre, hid in a closet overnight, and the next morning simply walked out with the Mona Lisa hidden under his coat. The painting was small enough to conceal, and security was lax by modern standards. For 2 years, the painting was missing. The theft became an international sensation. Newspapers around the world ran daily updates. The French poet Guillaume Apollinaire was arrested as a suspect. Even Pablo Picasso was questioned by police. The empty space on the wall where the Mona Lisa had hung became a pilgrimage site. People came just to see where it had been. The painting was finally recovered in 1913 when Peruggia attempted to sell it to an art dealer in Florence, Italy. He claimed he had stolen it to return it to its rightful home in Italy, though he had also hoped to profit from the theft. The recovery sparked even greater publicity. The Mona Lisa traveled through Italy on a victory tour before being returned to France. By the time it was rehung in the Louvre, it had been transformed from a respected artwork into an international celebrity. The theft taught the world something important about art and value. Fame feeds on itself. Once something becomes famous, it becomes more famous simply because it is famous. The Mona Lisa's theft created a feedback loop of attention that continues to this day. The mysteries and controversies. Beyond the famous smile, the Mona Lisa is surrounded by enduring mysteries and debates. Who is she, really? While most scholars accept that the subject is Lisa Gherardini, alternative theories persist. Some suggest the painting depicts Leonardo's mother, Caterina. Others claim it is a portrait of Gian Giacomo Caprodi, Leonardo's assistant and possible lover, feminized and idealized. A few theorists even argue it is a self-portrait of Leonardo as a woman. Recent discoveries have added weight to the Lisa Gherardini theory. In 2005, a note written by a Florentine official in 1503 was found in the margins of a book, confirming that Leonardo was working on a portrait of Lisa del Giocondo at that time. The missing eyebrows. The Mona Lisa has no visible eyebrows or eyelashes. Some historians believe she originally had them, but they faded or were removed during past restoration attempts. Others argue that fashionable women of Renaissance Florence plucked or shaved their eyebrows, making the painting accurate to the beauty standards of the time. High-resolution scans suggest there may have been eyebrows originally, but the evidence is inconclusive. Hidden symbols. Over the years, researchers have claimed to find hidden letters, numbers, and symbols in the painting. Some see tiny letters in the eyes, LV in the right eye, possibly Leonardo's initials, and CE or B in the left. Others claim to see animals or faces hidden in the landscape. Most art historians dismiss these as pareidolia, the human tendency to see patterns where none exist, or as cracks and aging in the paint surface. However, Leonardo was known for embedding puzzles and layers of meaning in his work, so the possibility of intentional hidden elements cannot be entirely ruled out. Is it finished? Leonardo considered the Mona Lisa unfinished at the time of his death. The painting lacks some final details, and the edges show areas where Leonardo was still refining the composition. Yet paradoxically, this unfinished quality may contribute to its power. It feels alive and in process rather than static and complete. The cultural phenomenon. The Mona Lisa has transcended art to become a global icon recognized even by people who know nothing about Renaissance painting. She has been reproduced on everything from coffee mugs to t-shirts, parodied by countless artists, and referenced in films, songs, and advertisements. Andy Warhol created silkscreen versions in the 1960s. Salvador Dali painted himself with a Mona Lisa mustache. Marcel Duchamp famously added a mustache and goatee to a reproduction in 1919, titling it LHOOQ, which, when pronounced in French, sounds like a vulgar phrase. This constant reproduction and reinterpretation has made the Mona Lisa perhaps the most recognizable image in human history, rivaling religious icons and corporate logos. But this fame comes with a cost. It is almost impossible to see the Mona Lisa as Leonardo intended. The painting hangs behind bulletproof glass, surrounded by crowds, viewed for seconds at a time through a sea of smartphone cameras. Most visitors spend more time photographing themselves with the painting than actually looking at it. The experience has become less about encountering a work of art and more about confirming you were there, about collecting evidence of your visit to a cultural landmark rather than engaging with the painting itself. Why it matters. So why does the Mona Lisa matter? What makes this painting more than just a historical artifact or tourist attraction? First, it represents the pinnacle of Renaissance humanism. The idea that individual human beings, their emotions, and their inner lives are worthy subjects of art. The Mona Lisa is not a religious icon or a powerful ruler. She is simply a person captured in a moment of quiet self-possession. This was revolutionary in an era when most paintings depicted saints, nobles, or mythological figures. Second, It demonstrates the power of technique in service of meaning. Leonardo's sfumato, his understanding of optics and human perception, his patience and perfectionism, all of these technical achievements serve to create something greater than technical virtuosity. They create the illusion of life, of consciousness, of a real person looking back at us across 500 years. Third, the Mona Lisa reminds us that great art is inherently mysterious. We can analyze the technique, research the history, and debate the symbolism, but ultimately, the painting resists complete explanation. There is something in her expression, in the quality of Leonardo's vision, that cannot be fully captured in words or theories. Finally, the story of how the Mona Lisa became famous through theft, publicity, and cultural momentum tells us something important about how value and meaning are created in human societies. Fame, attention, and cultural significance are not just about intrinsic quality. They are about stories, contexts, and the collective agreement that something matters. The Mona Lisa hangs in the Louvre today, viewed by thousands every day, protected by the most advanced security systems, studied by scholars, and reproduced endlessly across global media. She has survived theft, vandalism, and the passage of 500 years. She has inspired countless artists, launched 1,000 theories, and become one of the most famous images in human civilization. And still, despite everything we know about her, despite all the analysis and attention, she keeps her secrets. That enigmatic smile still captivates us, still invites us to look closer, to wonder what Leonardo saw when he looked at this face and what he wanted us to see. Perhaps that is the ultimate achievement of the Mona Lisa. Not that we understand her, but that after 500 years, we still cannot look away. If you enjoyed this deep dive into art history's greatest mystery, subscribe for more explorations of the masterpieces that shaped human culture. Until next time, keep looking closely. The greatest art always rewards careful attention.
If you enjoyed this journey into medieval mystery, subscribe for more deep dive into history's most enigmatic cases.